Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for the Business Growth Luncheon. My name is Keith Mullen, and I am the Executive Director of the NSBA, Saskatoon's Business Association. For those unfamiliar, the Business Growth Luncheon is offered every month in partnership with ourselves, the NSBA, and Economic Development Regina. Each month, we cover a variety of topics, all tailored to help you in your small business. Today, our topic is Turn Heads on Social Media, and our speaker today is Heather Murphy. Heather is the founder of Authentically, which is now evolving into Remarkable Branding. She is a proud member of the Métis Nation and an intuitive brand designer, writer, and entrepreneur. With a background in fine arts and as an educator, Heather turned her attention to content marketing in 2010. Her passion for education and brands inspired her to build unique branding alongside a colleague, Amin, to provide diversified services and classes for entrepreneurs ready to stand out and be remarkable. Thank you, Heather, for joining us today. If you have any questions for Heather as we go through the presentation, please feel free to submit them in the Q&A box, not the regular chat box. However, do feel free to use that regular chat box to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your business. And as always, this webinar is being recorded and will be available for on-demand viewing. You'll receive an email tomorrow at this time with a link to the recording. So with that, I'll pass it over to you, Heather, to now begin the presentation.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm so happy to be with you. And I'm not sure if you know what it's like as a presenter on some of these panels, but it is challenging to know how everybody is reacting and responding. So I'm going to ask you to please be really active in the chat, because I'd love to know what you're thinking and if there's anything that I can make a little bit more clear for you. So let's just dive right in. So today we're here to talk about turning heads on social media. Online, it can be a very competitive landscape to try to get people's attention and try to interact with them with all different kinds of social channels and all different kinds of businesses engaging with people online. And so I'd like to know from you what you're hoping to get out of this webinar. So if you could just drop that in the chat, I'd love to hear from you. And we're going to go through a lot of content today. So I hope you got your hair tied back and you're ready to work. So turning heads on social media. First of all, I want to give a big shout out to WESC for putting on this webinar and for including me in it. I've been teaching for WESC for the last 6.5 years now. So it's really exciting to be putting on another webinar and to be here with you today. And I love all of the things that WESC has been doing in our province to change the landscape of business for women. I think they're making a big impact. And especially also now with these newer initiatives for Indigenous women, I'm really excited to see those happening. So why does it matter? Why does it matter to you to have engaging images on social media? Why does it matter to you to have a good presence? Well, I'm not sure if you can fully see this picture here, but there's a couple embracing and they're both looking at their phones and not paying attention to each other. So we're looking online for connections. And so as businesses, it makes it more important than ever to be in those spaces where people are looking. So some of the reasons why it's important to have great social media images is because you want to grow your audience. So you want to increase your reach, increase your influence. And with people being online more now than ever, it's important to be able to grow that audience. You want to increase engagement. So you want to increase people connecting with you. You want to increase people asking questions and people getting involved. And therefore, that will also impact growing your audience. So those two kind of work hand in hand. Another reason that you would want to have great social media images is building brand authority. So you want people to be able to recognize you, and having a strong, clear brand makes you more recognizable online, right? So people start to understand your DNA and the spirit behind what you're doing. And it also improves searchability. So if people can't find you, they can't buy from you. So you want to have great images so it's easier for people to search you. So if you have any other ideas for reasons that you would like to have great images, like I said, please let me know in the chat. And so I'm here representing two businesses today, my baby Authentically, and my company is evolving into a new company, alongside my partner, Amin, who is here today. And that's Remarkable Branding. And what we're really focused on is people. So people connecting to people and creating that conversations, because you're not marketing to a prospect, you're marketing to a human, right? So it's that human to human connection and that vibe and getting to know each other that is really important. Okay. So I want to tell you a little bit about my company. So Authentically, I founded about 5.5 years ago, right here in Regina, Saskatchewan, to help serve small businesses. And so we've been a branding and marketing website development company. And just over a year and a half ago, I met Amin, who owns Wellness Marketing and is dedicated to reaching out to wellness companies and helping wellness companies grow their businesses. And we worked together on a project, and everything just kind of aligned, where we aligned on strategy and the idea of giving back to entrepreneurs and really seeing entrepreneurs thrive and grow. So we decided early this year to create Remarkable Branding. And so Remarkable is kind of the culmination of all of our dreams for business. And we're going to be very education focused. And so we're just launching. We haven't even formally announced it. So you're among some of the first to hear. And I'm just going to drop in chat a link here. So we've created a landing page where we're going to put this course. So if you want to watch it again in more detail, you can log in on this page and let us know what kind of resources you're looking for. So if you want me to go a little bit deeper in some of the design side, if you want me to go deeper more in the psychology, I can dive deep into any of those things. So I'm really curious what you want to learn so that I can create free resources for you that will help you grow your company. Okay, so I'm just going to take a peek here in chat before we keep moving. Okay, so Taryn says she's just starting her business as a side hustle and has never been a big user of social media, but recognizes it's a necessary piece of her marketing and is looking forward to getting some tips. Perfect. Well, Taryn and everybody else, I'm hoping to be able to give you some of those tips today. So my name's Heather Murphy, and I'm an intuitive brand designer. And it took, until last year to get really comfortable with that title. Before that, I was CEO and president, and I was all the formal things. But the reality is I am very intuitive. And I love science and psychology, and I love all that hippie stuff too. So I've been able to sink into that identity. So I'm hoping to be able to bring you some of the science-based and some of the feelings-based stuff, because what we're learning when we look at the brain is that people are motivated by emotional impetus. So I want to help you create some of that emotional impetus in some of your images today. So I'm an artist and designer. I started as a painter until my dad told me to do something more practical. And so I studied to be an art teacher. And when I graduated on my due date with my oldest son. And then I wanted to do things to stay at home with him. So I learned about online marketing, and I taught myself graphic design. I took all kinds of different courses. I built websites. I started blogging, and I got really into online marketing. And that led to kind of an obsession with neuroscience and psychology. And here I am today. So I've been in this industry since 2010. I started Authentically 5.5 years ago. And like I said, Remarkable is just new this year. And I've been teaching on these topics since 2015. So as you can see, I'm a member of the Forbes Coaches Council. So Forbes found me on LinkedIn with some great images and some great blog posts in 2016. And I was the first woman and the fifth in Canada to be invited to the Forbes Coaches Council. And just this year, I got certified as a National Aboriginal Business. And that's a pretty exciting milestone for our company as well. So I would like you to please take some time and answer in chat. What kind of posts are your engagement getting right now? What kind of engagement are your posts getting right now? If you could just let me know. How do you feel like you're performing online? Where do you think some of the weak points might be? Are people engaging with your content? Are people following your page? Are you making sales? Okay, I see some people just starting out. Okay, please take a second to dive in there. So some people are getting likes, comments, and shares, some followers, but more on Instagram and making sales. So Amin is here today, and he would tell you that he is just loving Instagram. Instagram's where it's at right now, especially in stories. One of the things that he told me yesterday that he just loves about stories is that they're super snackable, 5 to 15 seconds, people engage with them. And unlike any platform, you can see who's engaged with them, which is really exciting. You can put up stickers and you get direct messages, and it can improve your algorithm. And it's just a really great platform. So if you're going to invest in any platform, I'd highly recommend Instagram. Right now, Facebook is losing a little traction other than Facebook groups. Facebook groups, if you're on Facebook, is where you want to build out your traction. But otherwise, you can just kind of babysit your Facebook page. Okay, so Jacqueline says she's posting a lot, but people aren't empowered to like or comment on them. Okay, so Taryn says she's getting low engagement so far. Made a separate page for business, always a good idea, rather than just transition my personal account. Yes, you want to have a separate page. Julie says, it seemed to plateaued, lots of engagement in the beginning, but less as we've gone on. So hopefully some of these things are going to help you to just tweak your strategy and help you to move forward. Okay, so today's agenda, I've already done our introductions. I've got basically 2 points to this presentation. The first is strategy. So taking a look at what your strategy is, your brand identity, your content pillars, and if your content's memorable. So I'm going to give you some neuroscience hacks for that one. And then we're going to talk about implementation. So how to develop a remarkable brand by sourcing the right images, some graphic design principles that'll help you add a little bit of polish and pizzazz. And we're going to touch briefly on some tech tools that will help you execute, schedule, and analyze. And then I'm going to give you 3 more tips that'll help you increase engagement. Okay. Thank you so much for your engagement in chat. It makes it a lot easier when I can't see your faces to see if I'm boring you or going too fast. So it's really nice to hear from you in chat. So please keep that momentum going. So what we're going to talk about first in strategy is talking about your brand identity. So in this section, we're going to cover your logo, the colors that you choose, the fonts you choose, and your vibe. So do you have a brand identity right now or not? If you don't have one, I would strongly recommend figuring out what that brand identity looks like. So the first thing we're going to talk about is your logo. So lots of clients come to us asking for a logo, not realizing that what they're really looking for is a brand. So a logo is not your brand. A logo is like the bow that ties your brand up. Okay, so your brand is really the way you make people feel. How does it feel when they talk to you on the phone? How does it feel when they engage with you on your website? How does it feel from that first moment that they touch your product or that they engage with your service? But the bow that ties up your brand is important. Don't get me wrong, it is important, but it is not everything. So I'm going to touch briefly on some different types of logos. But please keep in mind that it is not your whole brand. And it's a really great idea to talk to a brand designer if you're looking at creating a mood and a feel. So one type of logo is called a logo type. So a logo type is just based on typography. So fonts that work together. So for example, the Netflix logo. There's no symbols in here. There's just the letters, and they're on a curve, and they allude to that feeling of cinema. Okay, so that's a logo type. So that's something that's just simple with type. Then there's iconography. So if you think about the Starbucks logo, you can recognize it from just the font or just the logo type, but it also has this mermaid. So when you see this mermaid, you think of Starbucks. You think immediately just based on this symbol. Some other brands with symbols are Nike, for example. Everybody recognizes that swoosh, or the McDonald's golden arches. You don't need to see the word to be able to recognize it. So those are 2 different types of logos. So you don't need just Lots of people think they need a big fancy symbol. You don't always need that. It can be just as simple as a logo type. But even in this simple version of a logo type, it's recognizable and it sets a mood. So that's something important to consider. And when I get into fonts a little bit, you'll see that fonts have an emotional aspect to them too. I'm really obsessed with type. The other thing is legibility. So I love the coffee cups from the Mickle coffee community. But before this coffee shop opened up in my neighborhood, I saw the logo. And can anybody guess what I thought it said? You can go ahead and guess in chat. Looking at it quickly, and even as a graphic designer, just quickly driving by for months when I saw the sign, I thought it said milked coffee, because we don't always take the time to fully read something. So legibility is really important. So I hate this logo. I love the design of the cups, but this logo, the type choices I don't think are great. So you want to make sure that your logo is legible. That's another thing. Another thing is colors. So I'm going to tell you the hack that I used when I first started my company, and don't tell anybody because you put brand designers out of business. I used to go into paint stores and I would grab booklets of paint swatches. You know how they'll have like the moods, like eclectic or poised or relaxing or beachy or those kinds of things. So what I would do is I would grab these booklets, and I think I still have a stash of them in my filing cabinet. I would organize them into plastic sleeves, and then when I would go to a consultation, I would show them to clients. And so then I would let them pick a feeling or a mood, because the great thing about those books is these companies spend tens of thousands of dollars putting them together, having designers pick the colors based on color theory and based on moods and set up a whole atmosphere. So I think I use a lot of interior design when I'm designing a brand because it's really related. I ask my clients to see inside their homes, inside their offices, their workspaces, their sacred spaces, because my mom always told me, if you buy the things that you love, everything will match. So I like to bring that theory into brand design. So I think your brand should really be a reflection of yourself in a lot of ways and the things that you love. So looking at paint swatches or choosing color families can be as simple as something like that. Now, there are online tools like Adobe Color where you can upload a picture and it'll pull colors from it. So I've done that for companies before too. So for example, a Saskatchewan-based company, I have used a picture of tiger lily and pulled a whole color palette from that, and that became their whole brand. So it's really fun when there's these extra layers of meaning in a brand, and that's one way that you can do it. So you can do it with a physical tool and pick your colors from paint palettes like that, or you can do it with a digital tool like Adobe Color. Another thing I want to talk about is fonts. So I don't know how many fonts that you let yourself use, but you know, when you play piano, they say you have to learn the rules before you can break them. So like jazz pianists, for example, can break the scales, but it's because they've learned the original scales and they've learned the jazz scales, and then they know how to manipulate within there and create some beautiful music. So I would really suggest that if you're designing images for the first times, you use 2 to 3 fonts max. So if you look on this slide, you'll see actually I've broken my own rule. I'm using 4 different versions of fonts. So the word your is written in a thin sans serif font. And then fonts is written in a thick, bold, condensed sans serif font. Where it says the website, remarkablebranding.co, that's in a bold sans serif font. Now these might all be in the same type family, but because they're treated differently, they count as different fonts. And then for emphasis, I've thrown in the script. Okay, so I've broken my own rules there, but you have to think each different size you use, each different treatment. So if it's bold or italic, that's considered too. And you don't typically want to go over 3. You got to learn the rules before you can break them. So the first type of font that we're going to look at is a serif. So this font is elegant and timeless. You can see an example in the image on the side. So serif basically means those little legs on the edges of the letter. And psychologically, it triggers, like Tiffany's or something elegant and refined. It also looks timeless, like a newsprint. Sans serif fonts are bold, and they often allude to something that's modern. So if you've got a contemporary clean brand, this might be the type of font that you'd like to use. And then we've got our script fonts or novelty fonts. So one of my biggest pet peeves with script fonts is when people space them out too far. Script fonts are supposed to look like fluid handwriting. So you want to make sure you don't have those spaces between your letters, that it looks fluid, like somebody just hand wrote it on the page. So what they can do is they can bring in some of the casual feel, or they can bring in an elegant feel if you've got a twisty, curly one. But again, just like we were talking about with Make with Coffee, we want to make sure that it's very legible. So the next most important point in your visual identity is the vibe. So what kind of feeling does your brand provoke? Is it modern? Is it contemporary? Does it make people want to change their lives? Is it aspirational? And you can dig deep into some brand psychology and look at brand archetypes, but really it's about the mood that you want to inspire. So I love this lady here and this quote by Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon. Your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. So your brand is not your logo. It is all of the things surrounding your logo, your colors, your fonts, and your vibe. So next we're going to talk about planning ahead. So creating content pillars. So if you're feeling a little stuck or like you've lost some momentum, it's a good idea to look at about the 4 different types of content that you can post. And this is how I like to categorize. So I'd like to make sure we touch on each of these for our social media management clients. So entertaining. So entertaining and educating, inspiring, and promoting. So this is one of my favorite rules. I call this the cocktail party rule. And I don't know how many of you have ever been at a party and you get cornered by somebody who wants to talk all about themselves and how that makes you feel. It makes you just want to jump out of your skin, right? Versus somebody who's asking you questions about yourself and genuinely interested in you. So we want to be the businesses that are genuinely interested in what makes the humans that interact with our brand tick and what motivates them. So we want to make sure that we're providing 80% useful information and 20% promotional. So here are some tips. So entertaining. So this is an image that we did for Gravelberg mustard. Do you even mustard, bro? And that's when those memes were really big. Do you even lift, bro? And so it got really funny. We found all of these big lifting guys and we brought in mustard. So humor, bringing in some nostalgia. So bringing in some old memories, from childhood is a really great way to entertain. And then also memes. So taking a look at popular culture and what's popular and playing off of it and just having fun. So that entertainment and that playful side of you. So education. So sharing and educating. So I created a blog article on how to live a more creative life, because I really believe at your core, it's important about having fun, and your soul passion and your career should go together, especially when we're entrepreneurs. We get to build that and facilitate that for ourselves. So this can be guides, how-tos, history, and information. So educating and sharing knowledge is huge. And so I'll just post this link again in case you came in late, but we are at Remarkable Branding committed to creating educational resources to help you grow. So I'd really love it if you would take the time to visit that link that I just posted in chat and let me know what you want to learn so that I can create that content, and I'll be sure to follow up with some of that for you. Another thing is inspiration. So we want to inspire people, inspire them to be better, to inspire them to do better, to get to touch on that aspiration for a different life, to bring hope and to breathe life. So quotes, videos, aspirational and lifestyle posts. And then it's your turn, promoting. So things like this. So I like to share my work. I like to share my clients. I like to share their successes and the things they say about me. But this can also be asking for sales. You can be talking about products. It can be promoting events. So, 20% of the time you get to promote yourself, but the rest should be education, inspiration, and entertainment. So have fun with that. And you can kind of structure out your year thinking about those pillars. Now we're going to get into some of these neuroscience hacks for making your content memorable. So these are some fun tips that I found that trigger memory in the brain. So people will probably only remember 10% of this presentation unless you teach it to somebody else. So what is the 10% that you want people to remember? So these are some tips to help you be more memorable. So one is by touching on human emotion. So any range of human emotion or expression that you can touch on, whether that's connection or belonging, whether that's happiness or this pure joy that's in this photo. Emotions are a really great way to trigger memory. Another one is nostalgia. Companies like John Deere have been using this for centuries by creating toys that little children get attached to. And then when they grow older, they are committed brand followers. So bringing in some nostalgia or touching on people's nerves from their youth is a really powerful way to trigger memory. So if you're going to put in, say, for example, a Mario Kart character or something like that, something like old 80s toys, things like that, that might trigger emotions and nostalgia for people, and that makes it a little bit more powerful. Another thing is the unexpected. So taking the same little girl in this swing, throwing her in a different context. What this does is it's kind of like a dream, when it's something surreal and something's out of context and it's surprising and almost refreshing and it makes you stop and think. That's what the unexpected can do. So that can cause people to stop and think and look. So we only have a couple seconds while people are scrolling to capture their attentions. But by doing something like this, you can cause somebody to stop and look. The other thing is simplicity. So anybody who knows me knows that this is something that I'm challenged with. I like to add in paint splashes and shadows and all kinds of cool type, but sometimes simple is better. So we live in such a busy world online. It's like driving down the Vegas Strip constantly when you're scrolling through your phone. And so sometimes having something simple allows the eyes somewhere to rest and is contrast in the middle of a sea of noise. So there's nothing wrong with doing beautiful, simple designs. And if you look at my partner, Amin Ahmed's Instagram, it's wellness marketing on Instagram. You'll see that he does a really good job of that simple vibe, that kind of Zen feeling vibe. So the other thing is community. Everybody is looking for a place to belong. There's Amin. Do you have anything to say to the simplicity, Amin? He's just becoming a panelist here. So the other thing is community. So you want to create a community vibe. Everybody's looking for a place to belong. And so if you show people connecting and you give that sense of community in your social channels, you're going to be more memorable. So some of the things to think about when you're building your community is love. So creating that feeling of loving and being loved, creating helpful resources, creating that sense of belonging. And everybody has a desire to know and be known and to love and be loved. So being able to kind of tap into that for building community posts. Finally, we have ego. And I love this lady. Like, I don't know who has pink dinosaurs in their greenhouse room, but she's so cool. And this brings me to thinking about, when you buy a book, you think you're buying the time to read it, not actually just the book. So creating that sense of aspiration or the kind of lifestyle that they can live can attract people's attention as well and make your post more memorable. So quick check-in here. Go back to our agenda. We're about halfway through. We've gone through strategy and we're going to start to talk about implementation. And I'd love to know if you have any comments at this point or if any of these tips on memorability have been helpful, please go ahead and drop that in the chat below, and then we'll get ready to dive into implementation. Amin, do you have anything to say to this first part yet that we've gone through?
No, you guys are
Hi,
doing
Amin.
hi, Heather, you're doing awesome. And somebody had a question about Reels. While the rest of them are typing it in, I can talk about Reels just for a quick
Yes,
second.
please.
So Instagram Reels are really interesting in that they're obviously a ripoff, and they just stole it directly from TikTok. And Instagram and Facebook do a really good job of taking something from someone else, and they do their R&D, or as we refer to it as rob and duplicate. And they take it from someone else and they make it better. So Reels are actually the place to be right now in Instagram, Reels and Stories. The thing about Stories is that they disappear after a day, Reels don't. And if you think about when to use which one, I would say that Stories are where you want to do the behind the scenes, just fun stuff. What are you up to today? And for most businesses, Reels are where you're going to do a lot of the education stuff that you want to keep on your platform or on your account. So Reels are definitely one where you want to stick around, and where you want people to stick around and watch it more and more. The Instagram algorithm also is optimizing everything for Reels. So if you've got Reels on your profile, then you're also going to get a lot more reach to the rest of your account. So that was a great question. I can't remember who that was, but really good question about Reels.
Thanks, Amin. Amin is really the Instagram expert on our team, so it's great that he's here with us. Someone just mentioned, Taryn said she's not taking notes fast enough. Will we have access to the recording? I know I'm covering a lot of content here. I wanted to make sure that I give you the most value. So if you go to remarkablebranding.co/turn-heads, you will be able to you'll be able to watch this recording. So we'll post it there after. And I know that Lola told me that Wes is going to be having this recording up as well. We're also, like I said, working on workbooks and full complete courses with the same kind of content. So if you're wanting to go deeper, please go ahead and visit that link, and we'll be sure to put out some great resources for you for free. Okay, so we did a workshop just the other week on selling art online. So I see a comment here about I paint and want people to follow my page and buy my paintings on Instagram. Amin, do you have any comments to that before we move forward? On how to sell paintings on Instagram.
One of the biggest things is you want to make sure that you're speaking to the right audience. And so if the art that you're selling is for a higher end client, for example, then you want to make it so that it looks like they are in the art. Excuse me. So what I mean by that is that if you're showcasing your art, you can do a mock-up of that piece of art in a really nice house. Or if you're doing something more industrial, you can do it in a coffee shop. But really place your art in a place where they see themselves visiting or living even.
Yeah, exactly. So that ties into that whole feeling of ego, right? So if we go back to this lady, people want to imagine themselves in the space with your artwork. So that's a really great idea. I mean, I know there's some apps where you can mock up your paintings right in the app, and then it just makes it so easy. Okay, and then we have a realtor here who is looking to grow her business as a realtor with her social media. And so I think Instagram is a great way to do that. Do you have any comments or suggestions on that, Emin, before we move into the implementation?
Yes, video is the place to be when you're trying to showcase anything real estate related. And we talked about a little bit about stories and reels, but I would use both. If you're trying to showcase a piece of real estate that you have that you're selling, whether it's a house or a condo apartment or commercial real estate, if you do a quick little video tour of the property and walk around and highlight a few things and talk about what makes the property so great, and also give them a way to connect with you. So if somebody says, you know, I really like that, I watched this video and I really like this property, well, let them know that they can DM you, or they can go to your website, or you know, speak or just announce your email address while you're recording this video. And I think you'll be surprised at how many people actually respond to that.
Yeah. Well, thanks for those sneaky tips, Amin. I'm so happy to have you here. And I'm so happy to introduce you all to my new partner, Amin Ahmed, in Remarkable Branding, as Authentically is evolving and changing. As we've got some exciting things on the go for you. And Stacey, we'll take a look at that question here shortly. But we're going to move into the implementation section of this website, or this presentation, so I can make sure that I'm respecting everybody's time. So the first thing we're going to talk about is sourcing images. And this is a huge problem. I don't know if any of you have Googled an image and thought that you could just take it and use it in your social media, or screenshotted somebody else's social posts and posted it as your own. But if you have, I'd like to suggest that you don't do that. So as an artist, I have had people use my own work. I've had people repost my social posts. I've had people use my artwork on billboards and things like that. And it just doesn't feel good. You know, I've even had a politician to take one of my photographs and use it on their website as if it was a stock image that they could just have access to. And so as an artist, that doesn't feel good. And it also doesn't reflect well on your business. And it can rank you lower for your SEO ranking, which is your search engine optimization ranking, which is how Google kind of grades where the highest quality content is or not. So you really want to check if things are copywritten, and you don't want to use somebody else's work. So I'm going to run you through a few quick tips on how you can use images that are equitable for everybody. So we want to take a look at sourcing images. So here's 4 different suggestions that I have for you. One is looking at royalty-free images. Another one is Creative Commons. Another is paid stock. And then my favorite one is original photography. So the first one is royalty-free. So there's all kinds of photographers that are trying to grow their businesses by posting their photos for you to use for free. It's a really cool way for them to grow their businesses. And also you can shout them out. Lots of them ask for certain ways that you share their images, but you can find some of these on Pexels, Unsplash, and Pixabay. I mean, do you have any other suggestions on free, royalty-free images where you can get some of those? My favorite is Pexels.
Unsplash, Pixabay, Pexels is good. There's one that I use, it's called 2020. It's not free, but it's really good. And then there's Death to Stock Photo. And I
love Death to the Stock Photo. Yeah. So Death to the Stock Photo posts some for free, and then they ask you to subscribe. And what they do is they actually create original photos that don't feel like stock photos. That's one of my favorites. Another one is Creative Commons. So this is something where a photo is free to be used by the community. So sometimes when photos reach a certain age, they're free to use. Or sometimes if it's like a picture of the Queen or something like that, and it's been posted and is license free, you can use it. So Creative Commons is another thing. This one I don't know as much about because I usually try to take a look at knowing who the photographers I'm using are and making sure that I'm being equitable in using their work. And then there's paid stock. So Death to the Stock Photo I have in here, that's one of my favorites. I use a lot of Adobe stock. iStock Photo I know has some stuff. I don't use that a lot. But another one of my favorites is Creative Market. So Creative Market is a place where you can actually get templates for your social media. So that's a really good place for you to check out that will make everything feel on brand. And so we often look at that for our own clients and we start from one of those templates. So we're not starting from scratch. But there's also photography on there, which is really cool. So that money goes directly into the artist pockets, which I really enjoy. But when in doubt, always use original photos. So this is a great photo for Zoom Zoom Groom that was captured by JLW Photography of a cat getting a bath. So I don't think you can get that kind of expression in a stock photo. There's never anything better than telling your story with original photography. So I always recommend that if that's an option. Sometimes you can get startup photographers or younger photographers or students to be able to do this work for you, or you can hire a professional. It just takes your brand to the next story. So I like to create categories of images I want and then book a full shoot, and then I can get all of my content for a year. So the next thing we're going to be talking about, oh, I see, I mean, you have a comment on Creative Commons. Go ahead. So
in the chat there, and that's the website that if anybody's looking for free photography, sometimes you do have to give attribution, but search.creative commons will actually look at all of the sources like Flickr, Google, Wikipedia, and so it's kind of a one-stop to find pictures if you can't find it elsewhere.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's a great link. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you know, there are scams going on the internet, people demanding money for using their images. You want to make sure that that's a scam. but you want to make sure you're not stealing other people's images. It's just not cool to steal, you know? We don't even know we're doing it, but now that you know, when you know better, you can do better, right? So then we're going to talk about some basic graphic design principles. And I mean, this is something I could talk about for weeks, and we're going to be developing a full course on some basic graphic design principles, but I'm going to give you my 4 favorites. And these come from a book by a woman named Robin Williams, spelled the same way, called The Non-Designer's Design Guide. And this is a book where I started my graphic design career. My brother told me to read it because my designs were making his eyes bleed. That's it, the exact feedback I got. So these 4 principles will take your graphic design to the next level, and I highly recommend that book. Sorry about that. So these are alignment. Sorry about that. Okay, alignment, repetition, proximity, and contrast. So there's nothing sexier than good alignment. I love it when things line up, and Amin will know this for sure. So when things don't line up, it kind of creates this dissonance in our brain, and it's distracting. And so here you can see that these lines don't line up, and that's frustrating. And you see here how this corner of this T doesn't quite perfectly line up with this line here. That's also frustrating. So you want to make sure that things line up with something. Okay, I'm just giving the name of the book here in chat. And repetition. So the next thing that's really important is that you have a sequence of things that repeat. They need to repeat themselves. So if you notice here, I've got a lot of repetition in these slide designs, right? So I've created kind of a structure for how everything should look, and then I repeat the same kind of themes, so you psychologically can kind of follow along in your head and know that this is a chat thing or this is a different topic. So creating repetition creates a bit of rhythm. And then proximity. So when things are close together, we know that they belong together. So for example, on a business card or an email signature, we have a name and a title close together and they're grouped together, we know they belong. But random words and groupings make things very confusing. So if you see things kind of slapped all over a page, don't make sense, you want to group them together. It's the same kind of principle in interior design. If you've got a mantelpiece you're designing and you spread out 3 candles, it doesn't look as good as if you have 3 different size candles kind of grouped together. Same kind of principle. So proximity, that gives us a message of what things go together and what do not. Then there's contrast. So if we look in the top corner here, these 2 fonts have contrast. Do you see how one is light and it's shorter, and the other is bold and bulky and stretched long, and it's a different size. So that creates contrast, which is really pleasing to look at and makes content more digestible. But if you look at these ones on the bottom, these 2 fonts have too little contrast. So one's a little bit bolder, they're about the same size. And this makes me think about dance classes. So when I was in university, I was taking dance classes, and I had an instructor yell at me, if you're gonna fall like you mean it. You know, if you're going to put a different font in, put a different font in like you mean it. It's all about working with intentionality. So to recap, these are really important principles, and I highly recommend that book, The Non-Designer's Design Guide. Nothing is sexier than alignment. There needs to be repetition. You want to group things together, so proximity, and then creating contrast. And so then there's some tech tools that you can use to create your images. And so I use a lot of Photoshop, so I don't know that much about Canva. I don't know, but I know Amin uses a lot of Canva. But one really cool trick that you may or may not know is that you can use PowerPoint or Keynote to create different sizes of images. That is a really great tool because you can use the fonts you want, the colors you want, the sizes you want. So that's my secret trick. Amin, did you want to speak about Canva at all?
I really like Canva because it's so easy to use. And the way that they've set it up is that you can either start from scratch like you potentially would with Photoshop, or with Canva, what you can do is you can pick different designs that have already been completed, and then you just replace the image, you change the text. And there are some really, really good ones. And the way that Canva makes their money is by selling images at $1 each. And they're high quality, they're royalty free once you pay for them. But what you can do is you can take the design that they've created with those paid images and then replace them with some of those free sources that we talked about earlier. So Canva is really good. And then the other thing I want to talk about is with PowerPoint. There's a feature in PowerPoint. I'm pretty sure this is in Windows and Mac. And I think they call it design ideas. So what you can do is you can just drop, what I actually do sometimes is I take an image and I just throw it on the canvas or on the slide. Then I take some words, throw it on there, and I just wait a few seconds. And on the right-hand side, you'll get this little panel that'll open up and it'll give you different design ideas based on the picture and the words that you have. And then you can just remix them. It's actually really cool. And it really impresses people a lot when I use that.
I didn't even know that. That's a great tip. Thanks, Amin.
Mhm.
But one thing I really want to remind you of, however you're going to choose to do your designs, is if you get excited about these templates and you're like, okay, I think I'm going to throw a different font I've never used in here before, or I'm going to use the font that's in the template originally, but it's not my brand fonts, I'd ask you to stop it. I'd ask you to go back to your brand, to really think about the fonts that you've chosen, the colors you've chosen, and making sure that you're creating that cohesive feel and mood. And I have one client in particular who designs her own images, and she's finally listening and sticking to her 3 fonts, but she was feeling like her creativity was hampered. And it's not the first time I've heard this, by sticking to these fonts. She was feeling like she couldn't have as much fun. But really, when we create a little bit of structure, we can actually have more fun. So when we follow these rules and we follow these laws, you can get creative within that. But it also, on the other hand, creates a library of content that's cohesive, that makes you memorable and recognizable and trustworthy. So that's really important. Another thing that you can think about is for scheduling. We do recommend that you schedule out your posts in advance. It's more time efficient, and it allows you to make sure that you're addressing each one of your content pillars. We've used a number of different tools. I know we've used Smarter Queue and Later, and you use Sharito for stories, right, Amin? You have some other tools you like for scheduling as well?
Yeah, there's Planoly and Hero Post, and then Facebook Creator Studio itself is a good one if you're going to use Facebook to do Instagram posts, Instagram TV, and then also anything on the Facebook side as well. So Instagram Creator Studio is free, and you can use that.
Perfect. And then the other thing I really want to recommend that you do is you analyze. So Facebook's got some great analytics built in, so does Instagram. If you're using a scheduler, often it'll give you great analytics as well. So it's important you can guess where people are, but it's important to really know where people are. Okay. All right, and so I would love it if you would answer in chat what kind of tools you use in your design. Do you use Photoshop, Canva, other tools? Feel free to let us know in chat. We're coming to the end here, so I'm going to give you some bonus tips to increase engagement. So it's all about that story. So Min, would you talk a little bit, please, about snackable stories and snackable content?
Absolutely, yeah. And so Heather mentioned earlier that Instagram stories, and actually every platform now has a form of stories. If you think about TikTok as stories, if you think about LinkedIn now has stories on mobile. And Instagram stories are really great because they give you the ability to see who viewed your story. And my recommendation would be to every single day create 4 story cards, and that would be 15-second videos each. So grab your phone and just have it up kind of in front of you and just answer a question, whether it's a question that your client has given you, or if it's a question that you go online and you find somebody else. So Stacy had asked a question about marketing quality assurance, a QA management or safety management. I had a client a while back that was doing safety management, and there's a lot of questions about fall protection or using different kind of lifts. And in the construction industry, that's a huge thing, is safety. So what I would recommend, Stacy, is if you're going to try to get more engagement, grab your phone, record a video, and just answer a question about what the different qualifications or different certifications that are available for the training that you do. Now, that's really helpful because then people will watch it. And if you do 1 full minute, that's 4 15-second clips. And you can see how many people went from the first to the second and third and fourth. But the trick is the last clip, the last 15 seconds, ask a question and overlay a sticker on Instagram stories. So the sticker could be something like, do you agree, yes or no? Or it could be a question, what did you have for your Valentine's Day meal? It could be anything depending on the industry that you're in. And as soon as somebody responds to that, that opens up a direct message with them, which then you can carry on a conversation. So Stories are a
It's a
great way to get
great
engagement.
tip.
Mhm.
Yeah, everything's moving to stories right now. So that's a great tip, Amin. Uh, then the other thing that I want you to think about is that algorithms are designed for consumers. So for example, if you learn about the Instagram algorithm, the Facebook algorithm, the Google My Business algorithm, you learn about what works in that algorithm, you're really learning about consumers, because those are designed to give people great content. They're designed to give people the kind of content that research shows that they're engaging with. So learning about the algorithm will help you to do better content. Do you have any comments on that, Amin? Not on that one? The other thing is to collaborate with brands with similar audiences. So this can be in a giveaway. This could be in a share for share, which is where you share something of theirs and they share something of yours, which is a really great way to build your audience. But collaborating with companies with similar audiences, not necessarily your competition, but with people with a similar aspirational lifestyle. So that's one of my favorites. Do you have any thoughts on collaborations, Amin?
Ways are a really good way to get engagement. And so I've seen a lot of Instagram accounts and profiles where they'll bring together similar companies and similar profiles, and they'll say, okay, well, we're doing this massive giveaway of 10 different wellness products, and each company or each profile has a different wellness product that they're giving away. And what happens is that you have to go to a website and you have to fill in your email address, and then you get access to all of those 10 things. Or the way you get extra points is that by the person that wants to be part of that giveaway has to share that giveaway. And so now all of a sudden it's this viral effect where you've got one person sharing it 10 times and then another person sharing it 5 times, and it just grows from there. So that's a good way to collaborate as well.
Awesome. Another thing is to ask for it. If you want something, you ask for it. Go ahead and visit us at remarkablebranding.co/turn-heads and fill in the form. Ask people to do things. Ask people to, type a comment or question in chat. Ask them for what you want. What do you think? Spoon or fork? Ask them. Ask for that response. Ask for that engagement. It's a really exciting way to beat the algorithm, but also to engage with people and to get them talking. Any thoughts on that one? Asking for engagement?
Well, I'm from Edmonton, and Wayne Gretzky was a hockey player here, as you probably know who that is, and he was famous for saying that you miss 99% of the shots you don't take. And so unless you take the shot, unless you ask, you're not going to be able to get a sale.
Okay, we just got an interesting comment from Tanya. So we work with the dental office in Edmonton, and they're in this similar situation. So the question is, I'm a healthcare provider and I'm not able to provide promotions, enticements, or discounts. Do you have any other ideas?
Lots. Tanya, if it's possible, are you able to say what type of healthcare provider you are? And while you're typing that out, I'll give you a little bit of insight as to what we're doing for the dentist that we're working with. So the dentist that we have here in Edmonton, so Tanya says medical and cosmetic injections. Okay, so the dentist that we're working with right now, they aren't allowed to do any kind of promotions. In fact, the ADA, the Alberta Dental Association, actually restricts her and prohibits them from responding to Google reviews, which is really surprising. And to me, it feels really backwards, because if somebody had a good experience at your dental clinic and you don't respond, that's kind of rude. But if they had a bad experience and it wasn't even a client, maybe it's just a competitor trying to defame you, sort of thing. Well, you can't respond to that either, because then they're saying that shows that you had a engagement with them and that they're your client, and that goes against HIPAA or all the rules. So what we did is instead we said, okay, let's try to help them become an authority. And you can become an authority by giving information that's really interesting, informative, and maybe even potentially entertaining. Now, for medical and cosmetic injections, I have never had Botox myself, and so I don't know much about it, and that's a good thing. So I would ask you, if somebody has never had it before, what would you, and you had just a simple Q&A on your website, what is Botox? What is filler? What is prolotherapy? Then those are the kinds of things that you can talk about on social media. You're not soliciting and you're not giving advice, but you're just answering questions that are already out there anyways. And that's what I would suggest as well. Do that in Instagram stories. Do that regularly in Instagram stories. So have a schedule Monday to Friday. Each day has a different theme, but then do that in your reels, and that'll stay in your reels forever.
Yeah, and those are really exciting topics to talk about. We run some social media for somebody who does Botox fillers and all that jazz and all that jazz. And so we do like posts about education. We talk about why certain lips would need to be dissolved. We talk about different shapes. We talk about what the difference is, what is medical Botox versus Botox to prevent fine lines and wrinkles. We talk about all kinds of really fun stuff. So, and we show work. We show work for people that approve it before and after. So those are really exciting things.
Right. And so one thing I would also say is that if you are confused or if you're just not sure what kinds of questions people are looking to get answered, there's a website here that says that's called answerthepublic.com. And what you would do is you go there, you type in a keyword or just a phrase, and it'll actually give you a whole range of questions that people are asking around that topic. And this helps sort of avoid the guessing at what should I talk about. It's a really good starting point if you wanted to know what other topics are out there that are hot and relevant and timely.
Perfect. Okay, so we're really close to time here. Quick recap of everything we've talked about today is creating a visual identity, curating a conversation. We think that all great marketing should be a conversation from human to human, and experiment and iterate. So we're all about failing forward or falling forward, trying things. It's an art and a science. Marketing is an art and a science. So it's almost like you throw a noodle to a wall, see what sticks, and you do more of that, right? So it's trying things and then quickly iterating by looking at the analytics. So those are just a summary of this. Thanks, Susan. It's so nice to see your face again. So we also want to open it up for questions. I can take a little bit of extra time here too. If you wanted to stay over and ask some questions, I'd be happy to answer. It's one of my greatest joys, and I know Min's as well, to help small businesses succeed and to see small businesses succeed. So again, please visit that link and let us know what you want to learn, and feel free to ask now. We're happy to answer any questions. Bueller, anything you want to speak to him in while we're waiting for any questions to come in?
Now, these are really good questions that people have already asked about social media. One question that we get often is, where should I spend my time? And there's multiple platforms. So there's TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Google My Business, Snapchat. I mean, there's endless amounts. The obvious one is go where your clients are. But the not so obvious one is that everyone is on Instagram. And even if you don't think your clients are on Instagram, they're on Instagram. And what I like about Instagram is that all these other platforms are actually making it really easy to bring content in. So Spotify has a native integration where you can actually share something into Instagram from Spotify. TikTok has no discussion platform, so you can't ask questions in chat. If you had a question, it says DM me on Instagram. It's all within, like TikTok, or no, sorry, not TikTok, Clubhouse. Clubhouse actually has no way to interact with chat, and they use Instagram as their chat platform. So I think Instagram is a great place to do that.
Yeah, so Instagram is great. We got a question here from Tanya about looking for a marketing advisor in Prince Albert. I'm in Saskatchewan, I'm in Alberta. We live in a really cool time, and while everybody's working from home, I think we've learned that you can work virtually with almost anybody. So yes, for sure, Tanya, we'd be happy to work with you long distance. I'm actually from Prince Albert, so when I hear that, I get excited that people are from Prince Albert.
Yeah, we have clients all over the world, and many that most of them that we've never met in person and just over Zoom, and we've worked with them for many years. So working online remotely is a standard for us.
Okay, so what would you suggest for content to someone who's just starting out? They're just building a client base and do not have any photos of their own work to be sharing for hospitality and events. Okay, so that's a good question. So if you don't have your own original photography yet, obviously it's good to get some together. I would definitely recommend starting a Pinterest board and pinning some things that you love. There are some great photos of events on Pexels. I would take a close look and think, okay, which ones are closest to the kinds of events that I would create? What are some things that I can do? And really think about what you can do and make it easy for people. So when people have to think hard, they lose attention. We are living in like an ADHD society with all these technical tools where people can go through and scroll fast. So people want digestible, easy to understand content. So make it really clear what you want to hear from them, or what they should do next, or what you can provide for them. So that gives you a little bit of a starting point, Jackie. Okay, so we got a great question here, and this is really perfect from Barb about how much would you recommend from spending on Facebook advertising? So this is a great question because Amin's just been in person on these calls with Facebook talking about what kind of ad spend people should have.
Depending on your objective, your budget will vary. So in Facebook, there's a few different objectives. One is awareness, which is just getting your face and your name and your brand out there. And that one, you don't have to spend a lot. We always say $500 a month is a starting point. But when it comes to conversions, which is really where you start to see the results of social media campaigns, conversions are where somebody sees an ad and then they take action and maybe make a purchase, phone you, make an appointment, a booking, something like that. So that's what I mean when I say conversion. And the recommendation from Facebook is you spend $30 a day on conversion ads. And that sounds like a lot, but if you think about whatever you're selling, so in some cases you're selling dental services, or in other cases you're selling an ebook, you really have to look at how much is it going to cost in order to get a client. And if it means that your client is going to spend $1,000 in the case of a dentist, you could spend up to $999 to get that client, because once you've got them, they're probably going to come back over and over and over again. And so I think the starting point is $30 a day, and run it for a month or two and see how that works out for you. And then always continually test and tweak.
Yeah, and story ads are where we're really spending our focus because we're noticing that that gets the best results, the best bang for your buck. I mean, could you speak to that? And I'm going to just read Stacy's question here.
Sure. Story ads are really great. We did some testing where we ran story ads versus feed ads. And then they call it audience network. So it's outside of the Facebook, Instagram platform. And story ads outbeat or outperformed everything else at least 10 to 1. And that's because people are on stories. They're used to it. And they just like having, Instagram is an interesting place because people like to be sold on Instagram. Facebook, they don't, but Instagram, they do. And that's where a lot of people will engage with brands. So stories plus Instagram makes a powerful combination.
And so Stacy's asking to talk to businesses and ask them what they're really struggling with. Where would you recommend I go to receive this feedback from business owners? And I think that this is a great place for stories. You could talk about an issue that one client's having in business and then ask a question and ask people to fill them in and ask, what would you like to learn more about? Or was this helpful? Or, ask me anything. Those ask me anything boxes are great, and then you can do live stories where you give the answers to that. I think stories are the place for that. What do you think, Amin?
Totally agree.
Okay.
If those are all our questions, I should thank you so much, Heather, and for you, Amin, for giving this wonderful presentation. We had lots of people had questions because it was just so interesting. So thank you so much for taking your time and volunteering to work with Wes. The recording will be available tomorrow, so all of you who are asking, you'll be able to rewatch the presentation if you would like. And don't forget to visit west.ca/events to register for our upcoming events. For June, we have other webinars, and we have our monthly Shaking and Uncorked. So make sure you head over to our website to look at those. And if that is all, I will now end the webinar. But thank you so much for your participation. Have a lovely
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.